Howdy, folks. Happy Monday. Busy weekend. Lots of games. So a lot of stuff to talk about. We'll start with that. Eck will be here in a few minutes, but we'll start with the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
I just want to thank Brendan in the chat room who pointed out that it was 3:02. Now it's 3:04.
Oh, Brendan, you can be my watch.
Right. Didn't realize things were that tense. Okay. Let's talk about Big Dom because this is a problem in my eyes.
Oh God, yes.
There's something, and I watched part of the Eagles post game because I wanted to see what they were going to say about it. And I give Reuben Frank, a reporter there, tremendous credit. Not only because he's a great progressive rock fan, and we've chatted it before about Yes and other big bands from the progressive rock era, but he, when it was challenged on the panel about Big Dom being a part of the team, he's like, he's not part of the team. So then, and I forget who the former player is who's on the panel there, said, oh, well, he's a team official. And that's fine. As security for the team, you shouldn't be anywhere near the field. And the fact that he got into a player's face, doesn't matter who did it first, and he may have done it first, doesn't matter. The point is the player deserved to be kicked out, and so did he, but he should never be near the field again. If you want to be security, you could be in that second layer of people, but you should never be up on the front lines with the team. It's bad that the NFL even allowed that.
Okay, I watched the video over and over because CBS or Fox showed, I think it was, CBS showed it over and over. No, it was Fox. I'm sorry about that. He was the one who made contact with the.
Right, that's what I thought.
Yeah, he was the one who made the contact with the 49er player. Honestly, unbiased, I don't care one way or the other. He should lose his job. You do not.
I wouldn't say he should lose his job, but I would say he shouldn't be on that field or at least anywhere near the players anymore.
The problem is he's head of security, so he can't do his job if he's banned from the field.
Okay, but they brought up a very good point. If you noticed, the Denver sideline didn't have a head of security. San Francisco next to Shanahan. That's why I was thinking Denver because of Shanahan.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't anybody next to Shanahan. They didn't have any security next to their players. It's fine for a team to have security. Security doesn't need to be near the players. Who is security protecting him from? You know what I mean? It's not the place where the guy should be. Or give him a chair near the stands and let him watch the stands. That's what security's for. If he's going to chase a guy, if he runs on the field, that's what security's for. Security's not for lining up with all the players there and hope you don't get plowed over when a guy runs to the sideline or start mouthing off against the other team. Nobody's team security to be near the players. They are not players.
Yeah, no, I mean it's okay.
And they let it go for a decade.
I don't know what his job description is.
It's director of security, but guess what?
No. I know that, but let me finish. I don't know what his job description is. I don't know if he's like the personal bodyguard for Sirianni or what.
He's not.
So if he's not that, then he should have been nowhere near the players.
And here's how I know I can tell you that. The Eagles just signed Shaq Leonard, the linebacker. Who was there to pick him up at the airport? Dom.
Yeah.
The head of security.
Yeah. So now he's
nowhere near the field.
So now he's a cult hero in Philadelphia. He can be a cult hero in the friggin' parking lot.
No, he shouldn't be fired, but it really is ridiculous. And the fact that the NFL let that go for like a decade, having him be out there near the players, and of course on the show they're like, well, he should know better. Well, apparently he doesn't know better because he was right there agitated with everybody else, and he's not playing. He's not a player. That's the point. That's it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Interesting. Hi, guys. How you doing? So I'm using my iPad today, which seems to be working better. So
it's good. It looks good today.
My Wi-Fi has been terrible. I think it's not my Wi-Fi. I think it's my computer. It's just dead. It's just dying. So I'm going to use my iPad for now and see if this gets any better.
And so far, so good.
I think you should put a 486. The 386s aren't good anymore.
What do you mean?
Tandies.
Oh, you remember a 486 was like a big deal back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a Pentium processor?
No, I'm using my
processor.
I'm using my Radio Shack color computer too.
Do you have AOL dial-up or CompuServe?
That's the one I had. I had the we're using CompuServe, Mike. You know, through a router that's wired through a Pringles can that goes outside.
I had free CompuServe through since I was a store manager first, and then eventually a district manager with software, etc. I had free CompuServe, so I could just go on there and go crazy.
Well, okay, people do not believe this, but I will profess to this, or I will confess to this. I still have my original AOL account.
Oh God.
I still have, and this is an account that I started in 1997, and it is an AOL account with an email address that does not have any numbers. Like, it's like, you know how it's like if Russ went on and started an AOL account, it would be R Cohen 2396399.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine is my initials with no numbers.
Wow.
So that's how old my account is.
Yeah, I have one too, Mike. I have one too, actually. I had my last name with no numbers on AOL,
Wow.
which is tough, you know, it's tricky. Yeah. So
Mike still has MySpace.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
Oh my gosh, MySpace, perfect.
Actually, up until 5 years ago, maybe, when Tim Panaccio was still with the Flyers on the beat,
Yeah,
I would hear him get to practice, or I would get to practice, and it would be like, "You've got mail." Like, he still was using it.
he was using AOL. Yeah, completely. I remember that too. His email was at AOL too. I remember that whole thing. Yeah, his email was I think it's still at AOL.
He might be.
I last time I emailed him was AOL. Still, it's funny. Kevin has an AOL. I mean, Kevin has the
no, he has MSN.
Oh, he's MSN, right?
Right.
He's got a good one for MSN. All right, here we go. Checking today's date. Got it. We need to get that. I don't have it yet. Let's see. All right. I'm going to guess.
We're well into December now.
Should I just guess? I'll just guess.
Yeah, just guess. It's more fun.
All right, see what happens. Hello, Hockey World. It is Monday, December 4th, 2023.
You've got mail.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cullen from Sportsology.
And I am Eklund. You're watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is a podcast that comes to you Monday through Friday, and we fill you in on stuff that's going on in the hockey world. And where should we go today? Because there's a lot of different places we could start today. But my best. I think we should start with the signing that we have. We have a quick signing, really quick. The
Niederreiter signing.
Nino Niederreiter. Yeah. So Nino Niederreiter is an interesting player. He's been around on a lot of different teams.
Yep.
He's everywhere he goes, people love him. They always say he's great. Every team wants to have him, and no team can seem to keep him. He seems to get traded every deadline somewhere.
Yeah.
And now he signed a 4-year deal, like a 4, which is like
3 year.
3-year deal. Sorry, 3-year deal. For $4 million per year. So that at least gives him, I would say, 2 years maybe there before he ends up in trade rumors again. But the Jets, making a move. I'm a little surprised by this. I mean, the Jets have been a little bit aggressive here.
Yeah, they've been aggressive for sure. This is why I like Chevrolet, because he knows if he has players that want to be there, he extends them, and it's a smart thing to do. He has to do that. And Niederreiter is kind of like a guy that you need, because he's not always going to score for you, but he's always going to be a jerk on the ice, and he's always going to cause trouble, and will occasionally score. And those guys are hard to find.
Yeah. No, he really is. He is solid. Mike?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a good signing. And you said the thing that was most important, that Cheveldayoff recognized this is a player who wants to stay in Winnipeg. And no offense to Winnipeg, but those players are few and far between. You had to pay Scheifele. You had to pay Hellebuyck. I mean, I think probably more than they would get out in the open market to stay in Winnipeg. Now they like it, and that's the free market. That's how that's how it works. So I think they made a good trade for a guy who did not want to stay in Winnipeg, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. So Cheveldayoff is operating within his means with a market that is tough to get players to stay there. Now Calgary is enduring the same problem. And it was sort of thrust upon them with the situation with Goudreau, and then Tkachuk, and then Huberdeau. It's sort of like, it's a domino effect. It's like, okay, Goudreau didn't want to stay there. They negotiated with him. Like, he acted like he wanted to stay there. Then he went to Columbus. Then he signed with Columbus. And then Kachuk said, well, I don't want to stay here either, and I got a year left in the contract. I mean, that's the problem with some of these markets. You've got players. It's tough to find players who want to stay there. It's easy for New York. It's easy for Toronto or LA. It's tough for Calgary, Winnipeg, Buffalo, Ottawa, those franchises. It really is.
I think Calgary, I don't know. I mean, they're different. Calgary, Buffalo, Ottawa, they're all different.
I mean, right now, Calgary players don't want to be there right now, this moment.
But that's the first time ever. And honestly, there's a lot of Western Canadian hockey players who think Calgary is the best place they could be playing. You know, like there's a lot of them that if you come from Western Canada.
Well, it's not the city. I mean, I think right now where they are organizationally, where they are in terms of the building, it's the worst, maybe the second worst building next to the Mullet. So those are considerations that have, and that,
well, it's an intimate experience, Mike. You're missing out.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
And well, there's a report today, Eck.
Oh yeah. Yeah, bring that up. Bring it up later on after we finish with Calgary and Winnipeg. Please read that because because the Board of Governors meeting is happening in Seattle, and if they don't address Arizona as the first thing on the agenda, they're abrogating their responsibility because this organization is a bleeping train wreck. But they're a good team on the ice. The funny thing is they're actually showing progress on the ice, but organizationally, they're an embarrassment. But anyway, let's continue with Calgary.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right about. I don't know that building matters too much to the players, to be honest. Like,
I think it does.
I think it does. I think there are some that are just being good sports about it.
They'd rather have a nice building, but it's not like. I mean, it's not horrible. You're not talking about like a 1960s building. It's not up to modern standards, but it's
Randy. Randy says at least we're getting a new arena. When was it? 2029. I mean, I don't know.
Randy, you'll be on Medicare at that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think it's just a matter of this team has lost a lot of players recently. Losing Kachuk and losing Gaudreau, are two that's caused them to go down the wrong way. But not so much, that this isn't a place that if this team is playing well and has talent, it's not hard to get people to go there. Same thing with Buffalo. Buffalo is the same situation. Like, it's not hard to get people to play for Buffalo at times. Like they right now. No, it's. I mean, for quite a while now, we've seen them out of the playoffs.
Well,
they are a popular destination. They're not.
It used to be Eck, and I mean the problem is, look what happened in the previous rebuild with Eichel, Reinhart, and Ristolainen. They're all gone. Why? Because they got tired of the organization being a train wreck. Now, I think they've done a better job in terms of recognizing and locking up their young players. Now, the thing is, those young players who they've invested countless millions of dollars have to perform. And thus far this season, they're not. I mean, Dahlin is. I mean, Power's okay. And the Power contract was the future. I mean, he's a great young talent.
Right.
But Dylan Cousins is being really tough on himself because he's not playing well.
I would say more than himself, calling the team soft.
Well, he called the team soft, and then he's also internalized it too. And
right.
and is he right? Yes.
Yeah,
he's right. I mean, for all the talk that the Sabres were supposed to be a team that was going to make the playoffs, and ad nauseum we talked about their goaltending and about their defense. Gee, what are they looking for now? Well, Devin Levi's in Rochester, and Eric Johnson, after playing the first 24 games, rested in the second of back-to-back. That's fine. He's an older player, and you give him rest. But right now, this team is frustrated, and they're playing terribly.
Yeah, I mean, they got some issues for sure. But I think Calgary is not going to be a destination for a few years, and I also think there's been a change in this league. There's been a change. The younger this league gets, the more that some places become a lot more attractive to them.
Yeah.
Not even based on winning, based on other things. The city being fun. So now Nashville's in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Education. Okay, now that's excluding some certain places.
Mike Hampton.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying that's still a thing. You do hear
No,
it.
I mean that's Dallas has a great education. Like you hear,
Right.
you hear
So
about
now,
that. You know,
but now we're hearing things that we didn't hear 15 years ago for hockey. Hockey players were all good sports, and they went everywhere. Of course, they took a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but now they're like really getting picky about where they want to be, and I think that's changing the landscape.
Oh yeah, no, I do agree with you there, and I think that the way social media plays out too is changing where players want to be as well. I think that definitely is affecting it because there's a chance to be social media. There's social media money out there that pro athletes are just starting to get to. Like they're not,
Right.
and that I think is something that is coming down the line. Like influencers and stuff like that. Are making a lot of money, and hockey players could be influencers. And they could easily be advertising more on their Instagrams about different equipments and stuff like that, or different stuff. So they haven't gone there yet, but they will. I think that's a smart move to go. I think I wanted to like to jump into what's going on with Arizona. Go there, Russ.
So Arizona, let me read you the report here.
Yep.
From Craig Morgan.
Is from Craig Morgan, of course. Phoenix has reported multiple times over the past 2 months that Phoenix was in strong consideration, and more recently that it was indeed the other location aside from Mesa that had risen atop the list of possibilities. While this particular site would not be an ideal arena location for the franchise's considerable amount of season ticket holders in the southern portion of the Southeast Valley, the commute is just as long to Glendale, giving traffic patterns at rush hour. The site is closer to the greatest wealth concentration of the city in North Scottsdale and Paradise Valley, and it creates easier access for fans in the Northwest Valley cities of Glendale and Peoria. I'm really just tired of everybody saying, well, the commute, well, this is over 20 years we're hearing all the same stuff.
No, we should know like the suburbs of Arizona.
I know more.
I know more about them than I do about the suburbs of New York.
I know, you're right.
It's just kind of crazy. I mean, I know I know people who live out there.
Mesa, Scottsdale, Glendale. How many friggin' times do we have to go through this ridiculous game, this charade, before it's like, okay, it's a big city. It's a big media market. It's a big television market. Maybe there's enough hockey fans, but when you don't have a building and you don't have a situation that's not untenable, get the frig out of there. There are other markets that want hockey teams.
I mean, no one's going to say the NHL didn't give it a shot.
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, that when people sit there and, complain about, oh, they should have given it, because people sometimes give a shot like that. The second time Atlanta had a hockey team, they didn't give it a shot like that. They had a chance there to build something. They were starting to build something, and they took them out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
But
the funny thing here is the talk is, well, Alex Morello doesn't want to sell the franchise. Okay, then the NHL takes it away from him. They can do that.
Yeah,
they took it away from the Islanders. Well, actually, I don't know whether he was officially the owner or they discovered before he bought the team that he was a complete fraud. But
no, he was the owner. They found out after.
Right. Okay. Right. So they have the ability to now. They have to reimburse him for maybe the value that he paid for the franchise. Is this a situation where he's looking to cash in at the value of what the Ottawa Senators got, which was $950 million, and he bought the Coyotes for pennies on the dollar? Well, the NHL probably will have a problem with that because then they can't rake in the profits. But in the end, they have the control of this franchise. They can do what they want with it. Take it away from him if you won't sell it.
Yeah, they will. I mean, they will. They will if it gets to that point, Mike. It will. I mean, if they have a really, and they're already working on Plan B and Plan C. Like Salt Lake City is being worked on all the time, and and that there's going to come a point at which Houston is another in there
like
too.
How many years though? Like when is this actually going to happen?
Well, I think within the next 2 years it's going to happen. I do think we'll see one.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing.
No, I think we're going to see one more year of the Arizona Coyotes after this, but I don't think beyond that. I hope I'm wrong because I really do. I know a lot of people are out there who are Coyotes fans, and I really want that team to find the place to work for them to work because they have, like you say, they have an interesting young team. They are they're not. They're a team I'll watch. Like if their game's going on, they rise in my rankings as to where I would watch them as opposed to before. Like there's some teams now that I just won't watch.
I mean, Elliot Friedman reported they were in on Hannafin. That's all well and good, but it almost doesn't matter what happens on the ice anymore. It doesn't.
Yeah. Well, the Flyers are on Hannafin too, so check that out.
Well, Elliot Friedman said that the Sabres might be in on Hannafin. You mean they were like they were in the summer? Like like they didn't pull the trigger on that, or Pesci, or no? I mean, okay, Arizona might be in on Hannafin to be able to sign him to an extension, but that's probably the only way that they would make a trade like that. They're not going to rent him. That's asinine. But if they could probably pay him more than most other teams would, so that would make a lot of sense. I mean, the aspect of the Coyotes in Arizona that I have the least problem with is the team. The team has, Lawson Krause is having a good year. Cooley is a really good young prospect who's scoring pretty well. I mean, they've got some good players. They have some high draft picks. I don't have a problem with that. I just have a problem with the situation where visiting teams are getting dressed in an empty part of the building where they have black curtains around. That's how ridiculous it is. So rectify the situation for God's sakes.
Yeah. I mean,
many bar mitzvahs have that same look. It's just, leave it alone.
Oh man, let's talk about some coaching situations for a second, because I talked to somebody today and over the weekend about Mike Sullivan. And Mike Sullivan's been a guy who has been pretty much untouchable for a really long time. Like if you were to consider a coach that that has basically Crosby loves him, Malkin loves him, the key players there love him. The Penguins did all they're doing and have the worst power play in the league right now is just which is
hard to believe. Yeah.
Which, with that talent, I mean, they put like at times they could put Letang, Carlson, Malkin, and Crosby. They could 4 of their 5 players could be future Hall of Famers. Think about that. And they have the worst power play in the league. And these are future Hall of Famers that aren't beyond their time. They're future Hall of Famers that they're still putting up big numbers. So how can that be? How can this team possibly be that bad? And I know, he hasn't coached the power play and all this stuff. And I know that if Mike Sullivan was available in the open market, he would be swiped up immediately. But I really do believe that. But at the same time, I think that if the Penguins continue down this path like they are now, I could see Sullivan's job being in danger. I really could.
It was in danger a couple of years ago, but then they gave him an extension. So now I don't know.
Yeah. I honestly, I mean,
it's a different ownership group gave him that extension now.
Sure.
Yeah, it's different. Right. It's a different ownership group, but the problem is, and you hearken back to what happened in July when Dubas was signed there. Basically, it sounds like Dubas was signed with the thumbs up of Sullivan, in terms of like Sullivan was part of the decision.
Yes, he was. Because then that's how much they think of Sullivan, and I could see them moving Sullivan into like a president type position or something like that. But I think
that's the problem. Dubas is the president.
He's the president and GM right now. I know.
Unless Sullivan wants to retire from coaching and be part of a management situation,
maybe he wants to be a GM. Maybe he wants to be, because Dubas
he wants to be Barry Trotz. Yeah, I mean,
he's coached a long time, and he has to really, when Sullivan looks at this team, he has to really wonder, what's going to happen, because this is a team that has. Penguins are still hanging on with a lot of star talent, but they are really right on the verge of becoming the Flyers. They're not that far off of becoming that team that has tried for too long in this.
Yeah. I saw Pittsburgh play a couple weeks ago here in Buffalo, and at that point, Jeff Carter, who I don't know if he's a healthy scratch or he's injured. Somebody in the chat said he was a healthy scratch. Raquel was hurt. Rust was hurt. And they were playing Alex Nylander, who they called up from Scranton Wilkes-Barre, on the second line. So when you're forced to do that, then there's part of your problem. Now, the part of the problem is you've got a lot of aging players, and aging players will get hurt more readily than young players. They don't really have a lot of young players, young talent to mix in with that group. So they're all they did during the offseason, and there was a lot of transactions that Dubas did, like Lars Eller and like Noel Acciari. It was patchwork. So
There were
when
some good patchwork pieces. I mean, I thought he went out and got the right
but
kind of
they're
patchwork pieces.
old patchwork pieces.
They were old patchwork pieces. They were patchwork. They were better patchwork pieces 5 years ago. All of them. But the reality is that
I still think there's a chance. I'm not throwing dirt on them yet.
Yeah, I mean, there is a chance. There's a chance they could turn it back around. And they've got the talent, and there's no reason to think their power play won't eventually get it together. Like it doesn't make any sense that they're going to stay this way. But
we say that about the Flyers, but they don't have the talent that Pittsburgh does. So like that's
it's very different. I mean, when you look at the standings right now, and looking at the standings right now, the Penguins are, fifth out of the wild card spot. I mean, that's, they'd be fifth in the wild card race. That's what the Penguins are.
That's a little crazy.
That is crazy, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, but the standings right now, in general, are a little crazy. Like the Penguins are 1 point ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. Think about that. So it's like, and I mean that's and New Jersey is tied with the Montreal Canadiens right now. So the fact is that there's a lot of teams at the bottom of this division that haven't woken up yet, and at the bottom of this conference. I mean, that conference is just, if the playoffs were to start today, this is what it would be. It would be Boston would be playing the Islanders in the first round. Boston the Islanders. Yep, Boston the Islanders. And then it would be the Rangers versus the Leafs, and it would be Florida, Detroit, and Carolina and Washington. Now that's like no one I think had those matchups. Like,
right.
Let's just say where those matchups are. Those matchups are bizarre at best, right? So,
but it's early. I mean, it's not that early, but it's not really late either.
We're at 25 games now, roughly. I mean, we're getting close to 23 games, maybe. The Western Conference looks a little bit more like kind of we expected it to, right? Like, but not completely. I mean, right now the Colorado would play St. Louis. No, Vegas would play St. Louis in the first round.
Right.
Colorado would play Arizona. That's a surprise, right? Dallas would play Winnipeg, which is a bit of a surprise, but not. Some people could have had Winnipeg there.
I mean, I had him in the playoffs. I don't know if I had him there, but yeah.
And Vancouver would play LA. So, I mean, the big thing is, Vancouver, that the Pacific Division is a really running away with things. Like that's a division where teams are just running away with everything. I mean, the top 3 teams in that division all over 30 points in 23 games. That's pretty crazy, and that really shows you that they are, anybody else get in the Pacific Division has to be a wild card team, no question about it, because those 3 teams are pretty much set in the playoffs. I mean, Vancouver, LA, Colorado. But of all this, what surprises us the most? Like where do you think? Like, is it New Jersey being out of it? Like that to me, I think it's the most surprising thing. I think New Jersey. I really thought New Jersey would be. I picked them to win the division and actually be the best team in the conference.
Of everything in terms of the playoff teams right now,
no, just in terms of the standings right now. Like let's talk. Just looking at the standings.
New Jersey is very disappointing and head scratching. They are.
Okay, I mean, okay. Let's go through it. On the positive, I think Washington being in third place in the Metro is surprising. I thought that they were going to miss the playoffs, and I'm still mystified of how they're in the playoffs with. I think Ovechkin still got 5 goals. I mean, nobody's scoring for that team. They seem to be just scoring enough to just.
They're finding a way. They're
finding a way. It's now they're 2 points out of. They're tied with Philadelphia for falling out of the playoffs. So 1 loss and they're out of it. But we're talking about the here and the now. I think Tampa is in a spot right now. They lost 8-1 to Dallas on the weekend. They got destroyed.
Yeah.
And now is it a situation where they sort of are sighing a sense of relief? They have a sense of relief that Vasilevsky's back, and now all of a sudden they're going to have a letdown. I mean, that's happened a number of times.
Yeah.
Right.
New Jersey, I have to give New Jersey the reason that I think they're down there is because of injury. I mean, Heischer was out for a month. Now Hamilton is out for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a situation where their construction was bad. I think they're losing key players, and that hurts. I mean, it's hurt Buffalo with Tage Thompson being out, and he's their leading scorer. I mean, the biggest surprise, of course, is the one that I'm rubbed my hands with glee about, which is Edmonton. I thought Edmonton was going to make the playoffs. I mean, I hoped and prayed they wouldn't, because I think their organization is completely flawed. But I don't like right now, they're about 75-25 against making the playoffs. I think that they have one chance in 4 of making the playoffs, and they basically can't make any mistakes the rest of the year. But I mean, I think they have to be the biggest surprise, because everybody. I mean, there are people picked them to win the Stanley Cup. That's how awful.
I picked them to go to the conference final. So.
Yeah, I picked them to definitely win a couple rounds, and probably the conference finals in that area too.
And there were a lot of people who had Vancouver as a bubble team. And, they're leading the league in offense. They're better defensively than we thought they were going to be. So Tocchet's had a positive effect there. Now they've acquired Zadorov, and that bolsters their blue line a little bit, although it's still not great. But right now I would say they're on a positive track to make the playoffs. And for that organization, that is happening at the right time, because apparently, Pettersson wasn't ready to commit to that organization long term unless they showed some positive aspects. And right now, everything in Vancouver has been positive.
Yeah, but how they're going to sign Pettersson now is going to be even more crazy, because they're going to be in a
Only
spot.
the money.
Yeah, and he's going to be able to get one of the top deals in the league. He's going to be able to another $11 million player. So
yeah, at least, yeah,
if not more. I think that I do think this is one of the years where the American Thanksgiving is not going to matter as much as it has. I mean, and that I think there's going to be some teams that are going to make it that aren't in it now. And I really feel like the Penguins are a good example. Like the Penguins, if you look at the Penguins versus the Islanders are in the playoffs, the Penguins are not in the playoffs. As much as we say the Penguins are just ahead of Canadians, they are 2 points behind the Islanders. Now, the Islanders you always want to look at points, and points are, of course, what end up getting you there. But I always look at goal differential to see how good teams really are. That usually tells you a little bit more. And the Islanders are a -9 goal differential in the playoffs. The Penguins are a +11 goal differential out of the playoffs. That's a 20 goal differential swing there. Wow. But yet the Islanders have 2 more points. So that the Flyers are a positive goal differential. They're +4 at this point. To me, goal differential, usually at the end of the day, the positive goal differential teams make the playoffs.
Not anymore, because I noticed there's so many bad swings now. Like there are teams losing by 7 goals, and then they go on a streak where every game is a 1 goal differential. It's like there's a lot of crazy swings out there. But I do think you could lose it with a positive differential by having a good goalie. But as an example, Eck, I know you don't want to hear this. I looked it up the other day, and Carter Hart's ranked like 21st in save percentage.
Right.
20th, 21st in the league, like right there. He's a good goalie, but he's not like a great goalie. And I think when you're talking about the differential, I think you got to be over 10 or 15 before you'd say it's a playoff team. But I will say this: Mary got hot for the Islanders, and they're winning some games. So I still don't think they're going to do anything.
Well, let's talk about what I guess generated a lot of interest on the weekend, which were the defensive trade rumors. I mean, in the wake of the whole Zadorov thing, and Elliot Friedman reported this on Saturday, that Toronto apparently attempted. I know that Russ is a little skeptical about this, but attempted to make a massive deal to get both Tanev and Zadorov.
Yeah.
Now he explained it more on his podcast today, and basically it was like the Leafs went to Calgary and essentially says, "Okay, we need you to retain 50% on both these guys," and that was the first hurdle. And Calgary was like, "We can't do that. We don't want to do that." Between the two of them, it would have cost them like $3 million. And I mean, what the heck is the value? I mean, that probably means a first-round pick and a top prospect and something else to get 2 defensemen. Now the rentals and the one aspect of this that is a little fishy, and not the information, but the mindset of Calgary GM Craig Conroy. it really shouldn't matter to you what the after effect of the deal is. If you get the value for what you're looking for, that should be the main factor. And apparently what Friedman says was the optics of Tanev and or Zadorov being willing to sign a contract extension with Toronto when they essentially said, we want to leave Calgary.
It matters right now, Mike. It matters right now.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Those optics, I mean, of course, it means something to Calgary because nobody wants to play there right now.
Yeah,
and
right now it means a lot. Right now, that is a very important factor. I mean, I could see it shouldn't. Like you say, it's easy to say it shouldn't matter, but when they've lost as many players as they have,
right,
who have signed other places, it starts to matter. I mean, it really does start to get hard to sell tickets.
Will it matter to Conroy if he's traded Zadorov to Vancouver and then he signs in Toronto in July, which a lot of people expect?
No, that wouldn't matter. No.
Well, I mean, why? Because he at least got value, got draft picks for him, but he could have gotten draft picks from Toronto. We don't know what the trade was. We don't know. It apparently never got to like the, we offer you this, and that. It was the money had to be part of the thing. And once Calgary said, no, we can't do that, then
here was my skepticism on it. I don't doubt that Your Living called and tried to do that big deal, right? But when the big deal was falling through, wouldn't you have Brandon Pridham and somebody else do it for just one of those guys? So this way you could, and know that you can float it, and then say, this is what I'll do for one of them.
Russ, that might be in the works still.
In the works, but it shouldn't be in the works.
What do you mean? They never.
Mike, just give me a minute.
Yeah.
If you go to the bargaining table,
yeah,
you have to go to the bargaining table with a couple different plans, and one of them has to be without them retaining any money.
Well,
yeah, definitely.
Russ, then there's no deal because they can't.
Well, then why did they go to the table, Mike? That was stupid.
because Calgary wanted to trade Zadorov now. Because they had the impetus to trade him now because he requested to be traded. It was sort of an embarrassing situation. They had to deal with internal strife with Michael Backlund basically telling everybody to keep quiet. So it was clear.
Okay, but here's the other thing. What are their salaries together?
Zadorov is 375 and Tanev is in the 4s.
And what do they want them to retain?
50. They want them to retain 50%.
So it's like 775, 50% of that, right?
Yeah.
You know what you're telling me? So isn't 50% of 775 what Tanev's salary is?
Yeah, about that.
So how come they didn't do the deal?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I don't disagree with that at all.
Tanev is 4.5. Zadorov is 3.75. That's 8.25 million. So to retain 50% is 4.1 million.
All right, so he's 4.5.
So you're trying to tell me they can't find 400,000 under the seat cushions? Of course they could.
What are you talking about? 400,000.
He's talking about the Leafs. If the Leafs should have tried to make the deal for one of the players, is what he's saying.
Right.
And you should try to go after.
Okay, first of all, they wanted both, and second of all, Calgary wasn't going to retain, so there was no deal.
No, but if they're not going to retain, isn't it possible to just get one of them? That's what Russ is saying, and I agree with that.
If you add up the two and retain 50%. Getting one at the regular salary is just about the same.
Or they could retain a little bit even, but it's
10%, right?
Right. Well, Russ, right now, unless they retain 50% with this whole situation with Klingberg, unclear, they can't.
But it was unclear when they walked to the table.
Yeah. So how could they have made that trade anyway? Like if they can't even go for, they couldn't even.
This is why I'm skeptical, Mike.
I'm not skeptical at all.
There's reason to be skeptical because unless the situation with what we don't know is how clear the situation with Klingberg really is. Maybe it is clearer than we know. It's very possible if it's clearer than we know, then sure. Like that's the one thing I'm always afraid to take a stance because of the salary cap situation. Because when I hear rumors, I don't try to take that into account too much, just because of the fact that there are things happening behind the scenes that we don't know about all the time, and teams find ways to get salaries to work.
And this is like somebody going to buy a house and they don't have the financing worked out.
Yeah, I mean, but just because they wanted both players doesn't mean that they shouldn't have tried to get. It would have been better by getting one. I think
they may in the end get one. Now, what Friedman said is Calgary is still going to take a swing at trying to sign Tanev, which of course means that what this is basically, and like anybody with any kind of sense when it comes to hockey, when you have 5 or 6 players up for trade and they've got 4. You're not going to trade all 4 of them in one go.
No.
You're going to trade them separately. You're going to get your most value by trading them separately.
For sure.
They traded Zadorov in a separate deal. Now they'll probably trade Tanev in a separate deal. If they trade Lindholm, they probably trade him in a separate deal and Tanev. And they get more in terms of assets by trading them separately. So I think that's what was, maybe the whole retaining it was sort of a shell game type of situation. I know Nick Caprios floated that, Calgary ownership isn't going to do Treliving any favors because he walked away from the Flames. I mean, this dramatic bullshit. I mean, it's such crap. But I'm not saying
that can be a factor. It can be a factor,
but
usually not.
Usually not. And
usually not. I mean, but you don't know. I mean, owners can be. I've talked to owners. And
they can be. I mean, there's no doubt. But like I said, though, for me, there's reason to be skeptical based on the way this has happened, and now the time that has passed, and nothing has happened.
Right. I think Tanev is probably not going to get traded until January or February, closer to the deadline, because then they can, and the thing is, Toronto has a need right now. Friedman didn't mention the name that I know you had mentioned on the weekend, which was Sean Walker, whose name is out there, and said that he's like way down on Toronto's list that available, but he's not the type of defenseman that they're looking for. They're looking for somebody more like Zadorov with size and snarl, because right now they don't really have any of that on the blue line. So
Walker's got a lot more snarl than you think. I mean,
I know. I'm just telling you what Friedman said.
No, I get that, but I think that
even this doesn't make sense to me. It's like, to me, the Leafs shouldn't have a long list. They should be a little bit on the desperate side, to be honest. And another thing is, if you've watched Walker play this year, he's 1,000 times better this year than he's ever been.
Yeah.
Right, which is the reason for skepticism, Russ. I mean,
no. But it's better than what you have.
It's a reason to sit back and say, okay, maybe this guy's defenseman develop. It takes longer for a defenseman to develop, and then you can also sit back and say that when he's given responsibility, he's also getting more responsibility than he's ever been given. When handed responsibility, his game steps up, and that's something that I think is valuable. I think that's why I think he's perfect fit for Toronto, and I don't know why they wouldn't do it.
Well, because they don't think he's that good. That's probably. Let me finish. Either they don't think he's that good, or the price that Philadelphia is asking for is too much. So now the funny thing is that names that came out over the weekend in terms of, and I don't think Toronto will be interested at all in Tyson Barrie because they've already had him.
No, they've had him.
So he's the wrong type of defenseman. They're not looking for. They're looking for a right-hand shot defenseman. But the interesting thing that Friedman said, and this player's name has been out there for about a year in terms of Nashville wanting to trade him, is Dante Fabro, and I think Fabro makes more sense than like some of the other names that have been floated out there because he's young. I mean, these are the names that are out there right now. Fabro in Nashville, Mario Ferraro in San Jose, which he's really good, but why would San Jose be trading a guy who's got a couple?
They're only trading him if you give him mega amount in return.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like I think right now the prices for defensemen, especially for a team like Toronto, who is perceived as being desperate, or maybe they are because they're playing, I think, 2 AHL defensemen on their blue line. Treliving is smart to not say, okay, you know what, we'll last the next couple weeks with Lagesson and Benoit, and when we get Liljegren back and Giordano back, then we'll be operating from a position of strength. But if they lose one more defenseman, then desperation will set in.
Well, I mean, I don't think Fabro is going to be given away either, and I don't.
I'm not saying given away. I mean,
but I don't think that where Toronto is right now, that's really the kind of player they should be going after. I mean, I really think they should be getting something more. Fabro's sure the players you're talking about, Mike, have great upsides, and they're going to be more expensive. So, but to me, that's great if you're a team that's not quite there yet. But if you're a team that's there, like Toronto should be there. They should be a cup contender right now. They should be going after some players that are more. They're more well-rounded, more solid, and definitely harder hitters. Like they need more defensive.
They've got no cap space now.
I mean, rebuilding the Calgary defense from the early 2020s is not exactly the greatest thing in the world. That's kind of, I mean, that's not. They're not rebuilding the strongest defense ever there.
No, but my whole thing is this:
they would have 4 defensemen from that team if they had made this trade.
Yeah, Mike. I don't even think when those 2 defensemen are back that they're operating from a position of strength because everybody knows their defense still stinks.
Yeah, they're when everybody is healthy, and I've said this in my blogs, and I've said this on off the boat, I've said this here. When everybody's healthy, their defense is average. That's why I don't think that they're going to go out and trade future assets for a rental defenseman unless it's somebody they can hold on long term because they're not a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. I hate to tell the Leaf fans out there, they're not a legitimate Stanley Cup contender right now because they can't play defense and they're paying too much money to 4 forwards. I don't know how many times I have to say this to get it through people's thick skulls.
Right, but I'm with Eck on this. I think Toronto Eck is at the point where they can't just roll over and say, all right, we'll just do what we can to beat Boston, but we don't think we can beat them, so we're not going to go all out here and give up many assets because we still think we're going to lose. There has to be somebody in the organization that looks at this situation and says, if we do X, Y, or Z, or even X and Y, I think we could beat Boston. If nobody can stand up and do that in their organization, then they've got a problem.
Yeah.
Russ, okay, anybody can beat anybody on a given day, but right now, based on where they are and what they are, they can't, Boston lost to Florida in the first round last year. How did Florida beat them? They out-Bostoned Boston. Okay, Toronto can't do that. You saw
that's what the trading deadline's for. You can do that if you get certain guys at the deadline.
You're going to continue the cycle of stupidity by trading future assets for whole plugs, and you're still not going to be good enough. Would you, thankfully their cap situation straightens out a little bit after this year because unless they sign Nylander, he's going to walk away and that's $7 million in free agency. Right. And Brody's making $5 million. I think they want to re-sign Brody because honestly, Brody's been their second best defenseman this year.
Okay, so that's fine. But again, once they get done with re-signing everybody and they have a little to spend, they're really not going to be able to change the makeup of the team very much.
That's why I advocated them trading Nylander when they could.
I know, but that's
Well, let's get to that for a second because I wrote today and I've heard about this. Like I've been one of the ones for a long time, Mike. I've been telling you you're not going to get any close to what you want for Nylander. But I will tell you now that talking to people over the weekend, you might. there are starting to be better offers for Nylander than I thought there ever would be. And some teams are looking at him like, oh, he is the one guy out there that we could really make a big splash. Now, the Leafs are not, what I was told, not really that happy about trading him to like a team like, say, the Panthers, or a team like in the they could be battling for a playoff spot or battling in the playoffs.
It depends on what you're getting back.
No, I know, but I think that finally, because what I've said before, and all the things I've heard before getting back from him, you were not happy with, and no one in Toronto would have been happy with. Now I hear you might be looking at a first round pick and a prospect and something else. Like it might actually be that, and then you could be talking about something that maybe the Kings. The Kings are a team that I think that could do it. They could go for it. They have the right pieces and the kind of players that Toronto is looking for.
Yeah, because the Kings are a scoring forward and a goaltender away from being a legitimate cup contender.
Right. And Nylander wants to play there. I've heard that over and over and over again. So. Signing him long term, could be a little bit easier. That also plays into it.
And Los Angeles has a number of young assets that could be very interesting. They're not going to trade Quentin Byfield, obviously, but if you're talking about Brandt Clark,
something like that. You could see somebody like that, a first round pick. It's something.
Even Brandt Clark's not going to help you for this year.
No, but Russ, the question here is if you cannot get Nylander signed, and that's the problem. Like if they can get him signed and they can get him signed at a salary that is acceptable to them, then they'll sign him. But if this is the thing, if Brad Treliving sees the road going the same way as it did, because it's the same agent, Louis Gross, then Goudreau. If he sees it going the same way, well, we'll talk after the deadline. No. We've got to get a deal before the deadline, or I'm trading your ass. That's what it's like. You need to think of the here and the now and the future. And if the future isn't Nylander signing a deal, then you've got they're not a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. So in my eyes, I have no problem trading William Nylander before the deadline. But I'm not the general manager of the Maple Leafs.
Right, because again, if you trade Nylander before the deadline, now Treliving has to go up against the media and tell them, I get it, we're probably not making the playoffs, or if we do, we're going to get bounced. We're trying to do this for the future. We're trying to have cap space. This is the toughest of tough sells.
Yeah, that's not going to fly.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
I think it'll fly a lot more than we're going to go into the playoffs and hope for the best, and then he walks away for nothing. They have to have him under contract before March the 8th, and if they don't, I don't care where they are in the playoff race, at their first place in the Atlantic Division. If you can't get him locked up to a contract, you trade him. You have to.
I mean, I could see a really short-term deal, something like that. I could see something.
Okay, that's all okay. Why would Nylander do that?
No, I mean, there's no real reason for Nylander to do that.
Yeah,
unless the contract is like ridiculous. Now if he's looking for like and the ridiculous short-term deal, they don't have the cap space for anyway.
Yeah, they give him like 2 years, $23 million. He might do it.
No,
yeah, but they don't have the space for that.
Right now, the trouble, and we won't make this an entire Leaf show. We'll get off of this.
Yeah.
Right now, the problem for the Leafs is next season.
Right.
With the last year of Tavares and Marner, basically both making $11 million, and the first year of Matthews making $13 million, and Nylander coming up. So whatever he makes. So if it's 9, then the combination of the 3, 11, 11, 13, that's 22, 30, that's 35, that's $44 million. If it's over 11 million, it's 45, 46 million. That's more than 50% of your cap on 4 forwards.
Yeah.
You cannot do it.
I mean, they're very good forwards. I mean, it's hard.
They're great forwards, but
I mean, they're not. I mean, I wouldn't. Obviously Tavares is overpaid, but he does what he does.
But the following year, and there's no guarantee, but the following year, it is pretty much assumed that Tavares is going to want to finish his career in Toronto, and then he would take less. That he would take not like $775,000, but say $5 million, or
I'd be impressed if he wants to do that, but I'm not convinced.
I don't think he's ever leaving Toronto. I don't. I think he's 33, 34 at the end of this contract. I think he signs a 2 or 3 year deal for less money, and then you can sign Marner. Marner. Now everybody said, well, if they sign Nylander, they should trade Marner. Marner's got a no move clause, and Marner is not going to waive a no move clause in the last year of his deal. He will stay there. He'll put up 100 points, and if they sign Nylander, he'll be the one leaving in free agency.
What league is it? Is it basketball or football that allows players to take cuts so they can sign people?
NBA, you can take a league minimum. They have a league minimum kind of contract.
It's but they also have veteran exception.
Yeah, it's a veteran contract. Thank you.
Yeah, like where veterans will say, okay, I'll give up $2 million of my dollars so you can sign him, that kind of thing. That happens in basketball, does it, or is football? Basketball?
No. In football, you can have your salary allocated as signing bonus.
Right.
It doesn't come off the cap, but it opens up cap space, so you can reallocate money and push it around and move it around.
Right.
With the NHL, because of the AAV, you have to balance out the The NHL could be like the NBA and move money around, but they don't want to do that because that benefits the big market teams.
Right.
And so that'll never happen. So the problem is next year when you potentially have 4 players making over 10 to 11 or more $1 million, and you cannot do that.
Yeah.
Put a team together to do that.
Yeah,
So
no.
Randy's asking me, what would the Flyers give for Hannafin?
Yeah.
If you get, see, I don't think they would trade Walker, Randy, because you still have to sign him.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I think they would give him Frost, Zamula, and one of the firsts, probably the first that they don't know if it'll be this year or next year. I forget whose that is. I forget.
Yeah.
Florida's, right? Is it
Florida's
Florida?
right. It's Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's what you're looking at. I don't think they're going to give up anything more than that.
That's a lot, though. I mean, that's
it's a lot. It could do something for you. Even in that deal, I don't think you get connecting.
No, you won't get connected. But I do think from what I've heard, there's a desire to have
Sanheim
and Hannafin as a pair. Like the Flyers, for some reason, think that they would work well together.
But they'd have to extend them.
They have to extend them, yep. But I think that's something that, probably, Hannafin is a number one defense, on a number one pairing in Philadelphia. That's probably going to
Philly, he would be, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably something he would probably be willing to be extended in Philly. I would think, Hannafin would.
He might. I hadn't really thought about it.
It is interesting. Some of these teams that are in the middle of the road, could the Flyers be buyers technically? That would be weird. It would be weird to think about, but it could be buyers, I guess, in that situation. I don't know if that's buyers. I mean, the whole thing, buyers and sellers now, is definitely changed because
it's a buyer because he's a player that's over 25,
and it's a player that you're adding to your team this year. Yeah. In the middle of the season.
So technically it's a buyer, but they really would be buying it more for the future, but it still would be a buyer. They would still buy and sell though, because on the next trade, they could trade Konechny if they don't feel like they're going to re-sign him. So they can buy and sell.
Once reality hits in Philadelphia and they decide that they're going to start trading off players in the second half. I mean, if they stay in the playoff race, then this is all for it's a moot point. Right. But if they start to fall behind and you've got Konechny at I think it's $5.25 million, and he's a 30 goal scorer, and you got teams out there looking for scores, and you're going to get value, they're going to trade him.
Yeah.
Especially since he has another year left in his contract. That's a value that teams, with cost certainty in another year, that just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I mean, Konechny would make a ton of sense in Toronto, Mike. I mean, and that to me would be a team that would really, when I think about his style, the way he plays, the Leafs could use that. They could use that.
I'll tell you the team that could really use him is the Buffalo Sabres. Because he's a feisty, energetic player. Yeah. And they're sort of missing that right now. They don't have that.
He would never extend there. That's the problem.
No, he would never extend there. And that's the fact.
That's the problem there.
I mean, if you're
extending in Toronto, he would extend in Ottawa. He would extend in Canadian cities for sure.
Yeah, he played for the 67. So isn't he from Ottawa, I think? Yeah.
He's also friends with Giroux. So I mean, you could see that. Right. I mean, you could see that. You could see Giroux selling them on him. The Leafs need a Konechny in the worst way. Yeah, they had a guy like that. His name was Michael Bunting, but they decided not to re-sign him.
To be honest, I mean, Bunting, it's been up and down. I spoke to Bunting the other day. He was on the fourth line, and then he finally got back up on the first line. He scored a little bit. Yep. But he's not scoring like he was with Matthews, that's for sure.
No, I mean, he is a complimentary player, but the type of feistiness that he has, I mean, he sort of fit what I thought like Brenda Moore was looking for in Carolina. I think that's why I thought it was a pretty decent signing.
Yeah.
But he's a complimentary player. He needs to play with skill. I mean, honestly, the Leafs have been shuffling through left wingers on that line.
Yeah, he's got 15 points. That's pretty good.
Yeah, Nyes has fit in okay right now, and I think that's going to work. But I mean, Bunting was a tough guy. At the end, everybody had it out for him and said, he's a marked man and all this stuff. It's baloney. I think he was a really good player. They got him. He was on a contract making less than $1 million, and he was a nominee for Rookie of the Year. So how bad of a failure was that?
No, it's not a failure. I mean,
no, it's not. But I don't. I think one of the things that we look at with the when we're talking about Ottawa for a second is they are in last place in the conference, but they have,
which is insane.
They have all these games at hand though, and everybody else. It's really
they do.
weird.
They haven't played any games. That's true.
They played 4 less games than almost everybody, and they're a +1 in goal differential, which is really kind of strange. So like to be the last of the conference and have plus tells you that games at hand.
This is the most bizarre. But okay, they're at 19 games, and nobody else in the league is at less than 20. Oh, the LA is 21, and everybody else is 22 or more. So they've got 3 games in hand on the entire league.
On the entire league, and
it's nuts.
And you look at if you add 6 points, Mike, to their if you took those 3 games as wins, add 6 points. Where are they in the conference then?
They're 2 points out of a playoff spot.
Right. So they're not that. I mean, people are talking about DJ Smith. I don't think anything's happening with DJ Smith.
I don't think they can do anything with DJ Smith till they solidify the front office. That's the other problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I get the feel that they're going to maintain status quo until the summer because they've got Staios in place as sort of an interim general manager.
Right.
And why rush into something unless the guy that they want comes, it could be somebody who's an assistant general manager with an existing team that they won't give permission to until the summer. So that's probably a situation like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. Last but not least, the World Junior schedule just came out, Russ. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't see the schedule. No, you mean the roster?
No, the schedules.
Oh, I didn't see the schedule. Okay.
Not the rosters. And
so
again,
probably starts Boxing Day as it usually does.
So again, Canada not playing the U.S. at all in this.
Well, they're in separate divisions.
Yeah.
I just think that it still just bothers me to no end. Like that is something that I felt like the World Juniors had a chance.
They did it for many years. I'm telling you, I loved it on the New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I thought they had such a chance because New Year's Eve does not have, especially like New Year's Eve night, does not have a sports event like that. Really, it's just
great.
I mean, I do not want to watch any more.
The sports event is Times Square and watching all the drunks.
I don't want to watch Dick Clark's Rocking Eve again. Like I just have no.
Oh, who's watching that anymore? He's dead.
No, but it's still called Dick Clark's Rocking
Right,
Eve.
it's still called it with Ryan Seacrest.
Even though it's with Seacrest, the hardest working man in show business. But I'm
with you. It should happen.
They had such an opportunity there.
I did like the U.S. roster though. I looked it over. It's actually pretty good. Cutter Gauthier on it for Flyers fans, but he'll make the team. But they're in good shape in net. They're in very good shape defensively, and they're okay for forwards. There's a kid, James Hagan. I wrote about him a couple of weeks ago for Elite Pros for EP Ringside. He's got a brother, but anyhow, he's a year out. He's a year out for the draft, and he can play, man. Like he's a 25, but he could end up being the best forward on the team. So I hope they have an open mind and let him make the team because he's tremendously talented.
Well, they did that. They did that the year before Matthews was drafted. He was on the 2015.
They don't do it a lot.
But the thing is, it's like already we're seeing like Logan Cooley is not going to be playing.
No, they're not going to allow.
More than likely, Zach Benson is not going to be playing for Canada, and obviously Bedard is not going to be playing. So there are a number of players who could be in this tournament.
I wouldn't say. I would say Bedard's not going to play, and I would say Cooley's not going to play. But could I say Fantilli won't be playing for Canada? I can't say that. I mean, there could be somebody that comes even to the U.S. last minute. I don't think it'll be Cooley, but I have to think about if there's anybody else. But I like Hagens a lot.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be fun to watch. So he's 2 years away though.
Yes.
But and isn't there another star that's 2 years away?
Well, Celebrini is gonna.
Celebrini will play for Canada. He's this year's star.
Yeah.
So that's
right.
And Yzerman wasn't invited. So.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so that's. I mean, I
don't think I saw his name.
You'll be able to watch the U.S. Czechia game and the Team Canada Germany game on New Year's Eve. It's like that's quite.
And Canada Germany's a boring. At least Czechia has some players, but
yeah, I mean, just they have this opportunity to really do something.
Yeah, but they're looking at the possibility of Canada U.S. in a quarterfinal or a semifinal instead of a regulation game. That's what I mean. That's what it is. It's like, I mean, if you put them in the same division, then you're probably only going to have them if they make the final, sure, but you're probably only going to have them in a regulation game instead of having them in a playoff game. That's why.
But you might not have him in a playoff game at all, and it's possible still, you still don't have him in a playoff game at all. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have them with a chance of being. They can still play. I mean, there were years when they played twice. They played in the
points to Dan B, who points out Guy Lombardo, who was the guy when my dad was like a teenager.
1 and a 2
and when I was a little kid, he still was doing it.
Yep.
For New Year.
Well, who was Guy Lombardo?
Guy Lombardo was the New Year's Eve guy.
He was the original New Year's.
Oh my
Eve
God!
He was basically like a Lawrence Welk type of band.
There's to me, I don't know about you guys, but to me, there's no worse holiday than New Year's Eve. Like it to me is the worst night of the year. I just can't stand it. I
see the thing. Okay, the thing is, honestly, it's like I don't even sort of like acknowledge it. I just I get a couple movies and I just don't like, if I'm not at a party or something like that.
Most of the time I'm doing what Mike says. Occasionally I went to an NHL thing if I was at the Winter Classic. I'm not going to be in Seattle this year. So this year, I'm going to do exactly what Mike does. We'll watch movies and that's it.
Have any of you guys fallen asleep before midnight on New Year's Eve yet?
No.
I go to sleep just after midnight, usually like 12:20.
I'll watch the hockey games, and usually the second one will end about like 10:30 or 10:40, and then I'll put a movie on, and by the time I realize it's midnight, like I won't watch it on my computer because there's a clock on my computer. So it's like, no, please just get me past Christmas, please.
I have fallen asleep before New Year's Eve now. A couple of years I've done it. And I'm usually up pretty late, but on New Year's Eve I've just crashed. I don't know, like it just like it comes, usually I'm traveling a lot around then. Usually I'm coming back from Florida or whatever.
You muted yourself, Russ.
That's funny, my mouse did that. If I'm at my house, I might have 2 beers. I don't get trashed.
No,
yeah. David in the chat says he has lobster tails and crab legs.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go all out, I have a nice dinner. It's not like I have McDonald's, but I don't. We just don't go crazy for it here.
Yeah. I am just.
I don't have kids, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, kids are sort of out of it on New Year's Eve. It's different. They have their own. And when they're young, they don't stay up that late, and when they're older, they go to their own parties.
I will say this, and maybe it's my older look at it. It does seem like New Year's Eve isn't as shiny of an object as it used to be. It seems like the young kids, because a lot of them understand drinking and driving, that a lot of them don't even have an interest in it.
No, there's so much emphasis to put on not do that it becomes like one a night where like no one people they're really conservative about it.
And honestly, New Year's Eve parties are like, they're just sort of,
they're not great. They're always awkward.
And nobody times getting drunk on New Year's Eve. They're drunk by 10:30, and then by midnight they're so sloppy that you don't want to be around them.
But it is the worst thing is the thing that you see depicted in movies. If you're by yourself and it's like 11 o'clock and you're at the supermarket getting like last minute food, or 10 o'clock getting last minute food, that's not a great feeling either.
No, it's not.
I'm getting some takeout.
That's a serious questioning life moment there.
I'll get myself the finest buffalo pizza. I'll watch some games. Watch a movie. What is the finest
buffalo pizza, Mike? We gotta go, but I've been getting into the California pizza kitchen frozen buffalo pizza. Pretty good.
Actually, that the barbecue chicken pizza from them is very good.
Yeah, that you can get.
Is this frozen pizza?
It's frozen, but you can. It's good.
They had in King of Prussia, they used to have a restaurant there.
If I had to say the local, it's not a chain, but the local pizza place that is the best. It's called Bocce Club Pizza. That's really good.
There you go.
Yeah, I've never tried that one when I was in Buffalo. Mike,
you guys want to try something really good? It's a snack. I tried this recently.
Mike just likes to tell us about these places.
In Memphis, so I'm a big nachos guy, a huge nachos person. Like we eat a lot of salsa, chips, and cheese.
I love nachos, Zach, but you have to eat them within 15 minutes.
Or they get soggy.
No, it's true.
The way they look and start to feel, you don't want to go near them.
Yeah, that's true. But if you
put beans on them, I'm not touching them.
No, I wouldn't. I don't do that. But to me, I had the other day, instead of salsa, like a spicy barbecue sauce on it with cheese.
I've never tried it, but I probably could go for that.
It's something they do in Memphis, in some parts of Memphis, Tennessee. The first time I ever had it was there. It's like what they call a Tennessee nachos or something like that. Okay. But do it. Give it a try. Like it's really, really good.
I got a place near us, a Mexican place that makes great shrimp nachos. And we have beans on it. We don't care what Mike says, but they're very good.
All right, we've declined into old man talk. That's pretty funny, Dan. I appreciate that. Folks, remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you soon.